Hello and welcome back to Inaudible, the podcast that's impossible to listen to. Do you like Pokémon? Do you like news? Are you subject to the passage of time? Then you'll love the Pokémon News Hour coming up right now. So the big news, of course, is, I should probably mention, it's just me at the moment, so I'm going to talk about Pokemon for at least 3 minutes. The big news, before I was so rudely interrupted by myself, is Pokémon Monster, let's go Pikachu, to Pokémon Monster, let's go Eevee. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, of course, which, well, they announced it as the next core RPG game in the Pokemon series. But I just want to clear one thing up before we start talking about this even more, which is that, I say we, I mean me. You're not saying anything. Well, you could say anything, but I won't hear you. Write a comment, or send an email. Links below. So they have also said that there is another core RPG game due for release in the second half of 2019, quote, sorry, hit them off there, quote, that follows in the tradition of X and Y and Sun and Moon. So it's important to note that this isn't the next real, quote-unquote, game. It's kind of just, it's more like an experimentation. It's seeing what they can do on the hardware. It's almost like a quick concept game. So what I should have mentioned a minute ago, it's based on Pokemon Yellow. So in one game, you pick a Pikachu as your first, in another game, you have an Eevee. Now this leads to another question. Can you evolve your starter in this one? Because while Pikachu is not the best Pokemon, you can get like the light ball and stuff like that. Whereas Eevee is really just crap by itself. So can you evolve them? I don't know. If you can evolve them, it's a toss-up between whether I'd prefer Raichu or probably a Sylveon or something, but I don't know, who cares? If you can't evolve them, you got to go for Pikachu, because who do a whole game with an Eevee? That's madness. Anyway, so yeah, it's seeing what they can do with the hardware. So it's really cool. It's based on Yellow, so it's basically just the Yellow storyline. So it's just Kanto, no extra stuff that we know of, but it's kind of a way for them to see what they can do on the hardware. It's like a quick concept game, and then any lessons learned, anything they learn making the games as well, they can roll it into the next games, and that'll help the development of the next real core series game. Speaking of seeing what they can do, it's a more kind of Oras-like art style in terms of the overworld people. It'd be really cool to see Kanto in 3D to start with. I think that's really cool. But yeah, rather than looking like a real person walking around, it's more like the kind of the Oras style, almost chibi-like. And the really cool thing is in the battles, so there's a mod you can get for 3DS emulators that removes the lines around the edges of the things, the people in battles, the Pokemon in Pokemon battles. And it looks so much better without the black lines around everything, and it looks like they've done something similar to this in the battles for Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which is really cool. It's going to be awesome to see. The other cool thing, talking about seeing what they can do, is, now I don't know, I'm not sure whether I'd like it rolled into a real core game or not, but I just thought it was quite a cool thing that they did anyway, where when you're walking through grass and caves and things, you don't just randomly encounter things out of the blue. They actually pop up in the overworld and run around, and you have to actually catch them, which I'm not sure about the catching them bit. I think I prefer it to them just appearing randomly and on top of you, because you don't have to chase after them. But that was quite neat. So wild Pokemon. This is the big change that people don't like, and I have to admit I don't like it either. But you have to be aware that this is a more kind of it's more orientated towards people who likes Pokemon Go. No, it's more orientated towards a more casual audience. That's why it's not going to be as long a game. It's just a quick suck it and see kind of thing. But say, yeah, you don't go into a wild Pokemon battle and weaken it. You just go into a battle and chuck a Pokeball at it. Now, this leads to big questions. First of which is, what do you do if it's a really hard to catch Pokemon? Do you just literally have to sit there throwing Pokeballs at it full health the whole time? That seems a little bit, it seems a bit silly. There must be ways, you must be able to get Poke Blocks to throw at it or something, bait and rocks and what have you. But yeah, so I don't like that. But the normal battles against trainers are still exactly the same, and gym leaders and what have you. And it'd just be cool to see Kanto in that 3D style, to be honest. And the battles will look really cool. I'm probably going to buy a Switch and buy it, to be perfectly honest, because it'd be cool to play Pokemon in that level of graphics. I think that I'm really quite looking forward to that, and it will whet our appetite for the real core series games that are coming out second half of 2019. So we still got more than a year to go until then, but we should start getting teasers released sooner rather than later. What else have I written down? Let's see. Oh yeah, I was talking about seeing what they can do on the hardware and more like an experimentation kind of proof of concept game. So as well as this, you can have every Pokemon following you in the overworld. Now I don't know whether they just mean the first 151 or whether they're all going to be in it. Probably just the first ones, isn't it? Let's be honest. But that's still cool. That's a big fucking step up from where we were in the previous gens. The last time you could have every Pokemon following you was back in Heart Gold Soul Silver, and they finally brought it back. It's because I think it's quite easy to do 2D sprite art, isn't it? But as soon as you move into 3D, it becomes a lot more difficult to actually manage, so they just didn't. But the fact that they're doing it now is awesome. And what's really cool is they had clips in the video of like people riding an Onix, and it is like a full-size Onix graveling along the route with your trainer sat on the top of it, which is really cool. And like you can fly around on a Charizard or along a route and all sorts, which is really cool. So instead of them following you, you kind of sit on them. So that's really cool to see. And it, you know, it kind of seems to hint at the fact that they're trying to bring that back as a feature, which is awesome. And maybe it will go some way to, this is very wishful thinking, it goes some way to allaying the big problem I had with the ride pager in Gen 7, which is that it was limited to certain Pokemon, and you ended up you never wanted to go on the Taurus or what have you to go really fast, because every time you got into a battle, your customized trainer that you spend all your Poke-Yen buying all those outfits for would just be wearing this stupid little like lycra suit, like he's like one of those bike wankers that you see during the morning commute. But I don't understand why they couldn't just put a helmet on your trainer. But anyway, so yeah, hopefully, maybe this might be something to do with potentially replacing the ride Pokemon. And I just want them to do my idea, which was instead of Pokemon have abilities as well as moves, and badges unlock abilities. So, you know, if your Onix can, you know, previously it could learn Rock Smash, Onix is just a Pokemon that could smash rocks. That's, you know, that's it. But anyway, it's cool. I think it's going to be good. I will be getting a Switch so I can play it. It'll be a short game. It'll be overpriced, of course it will. And, you know, the World Pokemon battles will be garbage. But I want to play a new Pokemon game, basically, on the new hardware. And I think it'll be good for that, and it'll whet our appetite for the real one that comes out in 2019. But the other thing, of course, I didn't mention is you can do local multiplayer, which is awesome. So someone can sit down next to you with your other Joy-Con, and they'll come into the game at the same time, and you'll both walk around the overworld. Both, you know, all the battles become double battles. Presumably, they will adjust the levels when it's two-player experience, and you can both throw Pokeballs at the same time to make it easier and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty cool. Well done to everyone. So I'm saying well done. So the other, brilliant. I've just closed my tab instead of opening a new tab. That was clever, wasn't it? Okay, so the other thing was some people have, here we are, I've emailed it to myself. 20 years later, fans uncover never-before-seen Pokemon left on the cutting room floor. So this copy of the Gold and Silver beta has surfaced, and it contains all like the draft Pokemon effectively. So it's got baby forms of Meowth, Vulpix, Ponyta, Tangela, Goldeen, Grimer, Growlithe, Paras, and Doduo. Early versions of Tangela and Lickitung evolutions, and an early version of Mime Jr. Pinsir would gain an evolution, and there were evolutions for Weeping Bell, I guess they mean Victory Bell, Farfetch'd, or no, a second evolution for Weeping Bell it must have been, Farfetch'd and Quillfish, an evolution for Farfetch'd, goddammit, and, the weirdest thing, an evolution for Ditto. How the hell would that have worked? I guess it must have had Limber or something as an ability. Oh no, the abilities didn't exist yet. That's really weird, I think. So there were different starter Pokemon as well. So instead of Cyndaquil, there was like a bear thing, fire bear thing. Instead of Totodile, it would be a thing that looked a lot like Poplio, so that was obviously reused later on. There was a bell-wearing cat Pokemon that would have evolved into a larger thing. Looks a bit like Skitty and Delcatty. The shellfish thing on Slowking was its own separate Pokemon, I guess similar to the Shelder thing. There would have been a tiger stroke mouse thing that looked a bit like Dedenne. And there was a pair of panda ones like Pancham, etc. So it looks like they're actually doing an English translation of this ROM as well, which is really cool. So you may even be able to play it one day. For some reason, having an ad blocker on doesn't let you see pictures on a Google spreadsheet, which is weird because I don't have ad blocker on, but I do have privacy badger on, and I'm not switching that off for love nor money. Maybe money. Probably love as well. Tear slides down face. Even the sprites of the Pokemon that we know and love look so different. Oh my god, Golbat looks like it's been snapped in half. The sprites look so much better in the finished version. It's amazing how much work they put into it to improve it in that short amount of time. That was it Satoru Iwata? Put a load of effort into it, didn't they? Noctowl looks deadly. Let me make a note of this website and I'll put it in the show notes. Then you can then you can look at them yourself. What on earth is that? Hane. What is that? It looks like a funky little bird guy. It looks really cute, whatever it is. Number 169 on that page. So on the left you have what was in the final version, and then so front sprite and back sprite, and then next to that you have the front and back sprite of whatever occupied that position in the demo. So on number 169 in the final version, it's a Crobat, and you'll see a Crobat there. But if you cast your eyes to the right, you'll see what it was in the demo. I wonder what that is. That's really bizarre. Maybe some kind of like no, it doesn't look like very togy, does it? But anyway, there's the Quillfish evolution. And then the original Pichu is like a blob. Cleffa, Igglybuff. Oh, 180, Manbo, number 5. Looks like fucking Huntail and Gorbis. Weird. Oh, that is weird. So they started that design then and ended up... Oh, that's weird as hell. Anyway, 184 is the pre-evolution of Paris, which is cute beyond all recognition. Oh, here we are, 188, Animon. That must be the Ditto evolution. That's fucking cool. What's this one? On 189, I can't tell what that is. Chicks. Oh, it's like a little 3-headed bird guy. Oh, that's fucking weird. Donphan Twins. Looks like a double Ghastly on 193. Meowsy is the Meowth Prevolution. Then, oh, it might not be the Meowth Prevolution. It might be the Prevolution to Rinring and then Belvoyant. Who knows? Politoed looks amazing. Row 199. Then we got Slowking, unknown. Somewhere Proto-Ledia thing. Ledian, sorry. Oh yeah, there's Slowking's shell. Grimy, a Grimer Prevolution. That's amazing. Octillery with armor on. Gungu. That looks like it's the Tyrogue prototype. Yeah, there's all the Prevolutions there. There's Blossom. Oh yeah, Belmit. It's another extra Weeping Bell evolution. That's cool. Bombseeker. Looks like a dolphin balancing a bomb on its nose. Not a dolphin, a seal. Happy, that must be Chansey's. Yeah, that's the Proto Blissey on 232. And you got Scizor. There's Pinsir's evolution. Cool, to go with Scyther's evolution, makes sense. It does look like Mega Pinsir. What's this? Wolfman and Warwolf. Well, that's pretty cool. On line 237. Porygon 2. Porygon 2 is like a little... Oh my god, you have to see it to believe it. Row 239. I can't even describe it. There's a Licky Licky. There's Steelix, look exactly the same. There's Kingdra. Looks actually cooler than the one they ended up with, if I'm honest. Oh, there's Raikou, Entei, and Suicune on 243, 4, and 5. Oh, they look awful. I'm glad they redesigned them. Sneasel looks awful. There's Ho-Oh. There's Togepi. No Togetic, though. There's Snubble. Tail. Don't know what that's about. Like an Apom thing, I think, actually, yeah. And then Leafeon. Is that meant to be Celebi, or is it an Eevee thing? No, it must be Celebi, because it's right at the end. Oh yeah, that's really cool. And apparently, out of the 100 new Pokemon, only XX of the new Pokemon were officially released as part of Gen 2. You might see, that might have been updated by the time when the podcast comes out. But yeah, that's really cool. That is really damn cool. So yeah, that was a little trip down Beta Lane there. I think that's everything. Oh, we'll do a quick roundup of the cool Pokemon videos I've seen recently. I'll put these in the description as well. So a guy did a what if England was a Pokemon region? And I always worry that things like that are going to be like really sort of poorly researched. It'd just be about some like, you know, twee shit. But it was actually really, not only was it well researched, it was really well thought out, well planned, and it was really bloody creative. And to be perfectly honest, I want to play that game. It would be a really good game. One of the Pokemon he designed in particular was, I'm not sure how much is him and how much is the artist, but it was such a good design. You could drop it into the next Pokemon game and it would look amazing just as it is. It's really cool. You'll know it when you see it. So the video is quite long. It's like longer than an hour. And it starts off quite slow because he just literally just starts naming lists of Pokemon that would go in certain areas. And I'm like, come on, mate, seriously, you're doing this? But if you get past that bit, he starts talking about the different routes, cities and towns, and then the gym leaders, the villainous team, and the plot line, and then who the Elite Four and Champion are and all that. And it's really cool. I would not have it any other way. It's almost perfect. So yeah, check that out. And then the other thing is a madman who beat Pokemon, I can't remember, I think it was red or blue, or one of them, with just a Ditto. And it was really cool because when you transform, you only end up with 5 PP, and you copy the attack stat of the thing you've transformed into. So, for example, fighting Brock, to use an example from early on, he had to transform it into a Geodude that knew Tackle and Defense Curl with 5 PP each. And with that 5 PP, he had to take down a Geodude and an Onix. So obviously he runs out of PP and then starts to struggle. But because of the way struggle works, it was just doing hardly any damage. So what he found out he had to do was he had to go into like Viridian Forest or whatever, use up all the PP of Transform on wild Pokemon, then go back and do the battle and just struggle with Ditto. Because Ditto was a higher level, his attack stat was higher, so Struggle was doing more damage because it was a stab move as well. Whereas in newer gens, I think Struggle is typeless. So that was his technique for beating hard people, was to just run out of PP and struggle as Ditto, which is not what you'd expect at all. But yeah, it was really cool to just watch him go through it. But eventually he couldn't do that, and it turns out it was because of the way the game tracks what PP you have. So if you've got a 2-turn move, it takes one PP on the first turn, then takes another PP on the second turn, and then as part of the second turn of the move finishing, it gives you a PP back, so you've only used 1 PP for the one move, it just lasted 2 turns. Just the weird way it's coded. But because of that, he still had PP in one of his empty move slots before using Transform, because it had saved that PP in one of the slots. So even though Transform had 0 PP and he had no other moves, the game still thought he had PP, so he couldn't struggle. So he was just stuck in these battles. So yeah, that was interesting. It was really cool to see how he coped with stuff. Eventually, obviously, he ended up at level 100 and was like struggling his way to victory. Spoilers, he did it. But it's really cool. Check that out. I'll put that link down below. I think that's all the Pokemon news. But I just want to ruin the tone now just by mentioning Total Biscuit, who obviously sadly died a couple of weeks ago. It'd be remiss of me to not mention him, because, I mean, anyone who's involved with any form of gaming, whether it's computer gaming, tabletop gaming, roleplay gaming, any of that stuff, will have huge respect for Total Biscuit and the things he does for that, things he did for that industry. I mean, really, really respected top bloke in that field, so he will be sorely missed. So there you are. And on that lovely cheery note, I can't end on that note. What I will end on is a recommendation for the book series Wheel of Time. I'm just like right at the end of the 6th book now. It's so fucking good. So I'd really recommend that. Check that out. They're meant to be making a TV series of it. It's currently stuck in production hell though, thank God. Because it's one of those things where so much happens in it. And this is how the Song of Ice and Fire fans must have felt before Game of Thrones came out, because I saw Game of Thrones first, then read the books. And when reading the books, reading through like some of the stuff that happened, I said to Rich, I understand why people were so angry. If I'd have read these first, I would have been livid. But yeah, and then obviously then I read through all the books before the series had done some of the things like the Iron Island storyline and all that, and I was angry at what they did with those ones as well. Turned that amazing Kingsmoot scene into just a couple of like 20 men stood in a circle shouting at each other. It was ridiculous. Dorne, don't fucking talk to me about Dorne. Anyway, it's a similar thing with Wheel of Time. I think the only way I would ever be happy with a series being made of Wheel of Time is if I was in charge and I had complete license to make it 100% faithful to the book. That is the only way I'd be happy. So hopefully that doesn't ever get made. Although on the other hand, it would be quite nice to see it get made because it would open it up to a wider audience and then maybe more people would read the books. I've already got my little cult at work of the Song of Ice and Fire fans. I call it a cult because it's like I was evangelizing to people about these books and then they picked up on them and started reading them and they were like, oh my god, these are really good. And now they are evangelizing to people about them. So it's like a little religion that's spreading. So I'm trying to get them on Wheel of Time as well. That'll be part of our doctrine. But yeah, Wheel of Time, check it out. It's 14 books, but don't be put off. You will love it. So the first book was good. It's a good fantasy book. It's kind of standard. What really drove it home to me though, how big the world was that he'd built, was they spent so obviously it skips over the boring bit. So they were traveling for like 2 or 3 weeks, but you don't read 2 or 3 weeks of them traveling. It just kind of says in a paragraph they've been going for 2 weeks and this happened and that happened and what have you. And then they've gone from like X to Y. What a weird way to say that. They've gone from A to B, and you flick back to the map at the start of the page and you're like, oh, okay, they've gone 5 millimeters in this double page map. So that gave me an idea of how big the world was. So yeah, the first book was good. And then I think it was about halfway through the second book, it suddenly became amazing and I could not stop reading and I haven't stopped since. The only bit that was a bit rubbish was a lot of book 5. There was only really one storyline I cared about, and the rest of the ones I was like, come on, how much more have I got of this? I want to get back to that other storyline. But then it was, again, sort of 2/3 of the way through, it really picked up and got really good. And then from then on in, it's been amazing. At the end of book 6 now, loving every minute. And I've got 7 and 8 on my pile ready to go. So yeah, pretty damn good. Wheel of Time, would recommend. Have recommended, will continue to recommend until you've all read it. So that is all. Sorry, I'm just rubbing my eyes because hay fever's come on really bad today and I've got 0 self-control. I used to have so much self-control when I was younger. Like, I've often thought this, I'm so glad I got chickenpox when I was younger. Number 1, because obviously it's fatal to adults. Can be. Number 2, because when I was a kid, I was such a good boy, like I just wouldn't itch and anything like that. If I got chickenpox now, I'd be fucking scratching all day. There's no way I'd be able to stop myself. And it's the same with these itchy eyes from hay fever, man. I've just been rubbing my eyes for like 10 seconds solid, and it's only going to make it worse. And I know it'll make it worse, but it's worth it for that 3 seconds where it's really nice at the end of rubbing it. And now it's, oh yeah, here it comes. Oh no. I suppose you could just continually rub it and then it'll be fine. But yeah, anyway, that's everything. I've waffled on for a long time, longer than I thought I would. It hasn't really been a very funny podcast. Not funny, haha, anyway. Let's see if we've got any emails, actually. Let's have a little look. Of course we haven't. I know this before it's even loaded. Yeah, of course we fucking haven't. Right, okay. So I don't know what the poll will be. I'll figure something out. So yeah, it wasn't funny, but hopefully you found it interesting. I know I didn't. Join us again next week when the whole gang should be back together. So I'll see you then. Bye.